Hey guys, welcome to April's reading vlog. For some reason this year, I have been focusing each month on doing challenges, and I knew right away what I wanted to work on in the month of April. Ever since I could read, the genre that I've really gravitated towards most has been fantasy, but I haven't read a ton of fantasy this year. No, I've read hardly any fantasy this year. I need to correct that. I'm going to go through my shelves and I'm going to pick popular romantasy books that for some reason I've heard so much about, but I have not read yet. And I knew exactly which book I wanted to read to kind of kick us off. The reigning queen in terms of popularity of romantasy, I would say, is probably Sarah J. Maas. I'm going to be reading Throne of Glass, which is the first book in this series. I think this is a 7-book series. Now, I have read ACOTAR. I think I started reading that one when the second book had just come out, so it's been a minute. I really enjoyed that series for the most part, other than the final book, The Court of Silver Flames, I think it's called. I gave that one 3 stars, which was like my lowest rated book of that series. So as a whole, very much enjoyed it. Now this book, I did try to read a few years ago. I think I got a few chapters in. For some reason that I can't remember, I DNF'd it. I'm about a third of the way through it now. And I need to discuss some things. I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts about this series. Now, before you get worried, I'm not just going to be sitting here criticizing this book. There's going to be some criticism because I think this book does deserve some criticism, some critique. But as a whole, I'm actually really enjoying myself with this. I'm having fun with this book. So let's talk about what this book is about. We have the most fantasy name of a character ever, which is Selena Sardothian. I think that's how you say it. We're introduced to her at the beginning of the book. She's 18. She's been sentenced to hard labor in the salt mines, and she's been there a year, even though most people just survive there a few months. And she was the kingdom's deadliest assassin before she was sent there, before the king sentenced her there. She was so deadly and she was so sneaky and she was so good at being an assassin that other assassins couldn't get work because everyone wanted Selena. That's how you say her name, right? Selena? Yeah, it's spelled so weird. So one day she's at the salt mines and she's been whipped and she's been beaten and starved pretty much, but she has her long blonde hair and it still kind of has a shine to it. And the captain of the guards, who's 18, I think, but he's the captain of the guards. This is a YA series, everyone has to be super powerful and successful, by the time they're 20. So he comes and delivers her to the prince, who I think is 20 or something like that. And they let her know that the kingdom is having this competition. The king, who Selena is an enemy of, he sentenced her to the salt mines. He's having this competition where he needs to find his champion. So they're going to bring all these dangerous people into this competition, and whoever wins is going to be the king's champion. And if Selena participates in this and becomes the king's champion for a certain number of years, afterwards she'll be given her freedom. So she agrees. She goes to the capital and starts training with the captain of the guard and the prince, and she meets a princess. So she's been starved, right? And beaten, and she's got open wounds on her back and stuff like that. And 2 days after she arrives, they start doing long runs to train. And don't get me wrong, I love fantasy training montages, like Rocky in fantasy. But I'm I don't think that's how the human body works. 1 week and she's doing all these pull-ups until she's sweating, until her arms are trembling. And then the next day she's got to go climb a mountain and she has no issue with it. So you have to suspend your disbelief a lot. But we're given a pretty interesting cast of characters that this is going to span 7 books. It's a 7-book series. So I can see there possibly being a love triangle between Selena, the prince, the captain of the guards. The prince has this younger brother who's been sent away because he's pretty cruel. I see him becoming some sort of an issue in the later series, probably rising up to try and take power from his brother or something. There's a princess from this kingdom that Selena's kind of becoming friends with, and she either can become like a really good ally, or maybe there just might be too many differences. They're going to be stuck on two different sides of a war, and maybe they're going to become enemies. Like, there are so many tropes that I'm seeing where I'm like, okay, I see where I think this is going to go. It is so fantasy cliche in so many ways. And there are cliches for a reason. Like, not all of them are bad. But, oh my god. Now, Selena's character, how should I say this? She is very confident. She's very sure of herself and her deadliness. And I haven't seen any of that actually put to the test yet, and I'm a third of the way through. But she sure thinks about all the ways that she can kill people a lot. Like, every chapter she's like, oh, I could like break that guy's neck in like 2 moves, or I could slit that person's throat. But she's actually not doing anything impressive, so I'm kind of like, well, you gotta show me you can do something before, like, you keep telling me you're really impressive, but we haven't seen anything impressive yet. I'm still waiting for it. Her character is kind of amusing so far in that, like, she's got this big ego, but she also wants people to ask her, like, she's having this conversation with the captain, and she's like, well, yes, I am so successful at such a young age, and like, don't you want to ask me how I did it? Like, poke, 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 poke. So she's constantly looking out for these people to like build up her ego in so many ways, and it's really funny so far. I'm way more forgiving of such obvious character flaws or such obvious cliches at the beginning of a series, because I think a lot of times authors will do that on purpose because you have so much room for character growth and character development. So I don't think she's going to be the same, that she is beginning of book 1 versus the end of book 7. So I'm excited to see where her character goes. I'm actually really having fun with it. There's all the assassins have come together now. So they're having like bi-weekly competitions, I think it is. Some of the assassins are really terrible people, and some she's kind of tentatively becoming friends with. There's a growing relationship, attraction between her and the prince, and then her and the captain of the guards. I really don't love triangles. I don't love triangles. I'm hoping it's not going to be one, but I have a feeling it is. So I've just got to prepare myself, but I'm getting through this pretty quickly. I'm having fun, so I'll probably be back like tomorrow or the next day, finish it, and then we will choose our next romantasy book, because I do not have any of the other books in this series. That might be a problem soon. I finished the book, and oh dear, there's a lot to discuss. I said there's a lot to discuss last time when I was about a third of the way through. There's even more to discuss that I just don't understand about this book. So last time, I think I left off, the tournament was just beginning. The tournament of assassins, where all these really skilled, dangerous people from all across the country have been gathered together to compete for the title of the King's Champion. And boy, is that tournament a letdown, because we get about a page in total. It's supposed to be, I think, like weekly or bi-weekly events that you're supposed to like prove yourself in, and we will get one sentence that says this part of the tournament happened. Like, I had to throw a spear yesterday, and that's all we get. We get one scene where there's like some sort of rock climbing that's maybe a page, and then do we get any actual descriptions of any events until the final one? I don't think we do. So that part that I thought was going to make up like a large majority of the book, there is just zero tension about. Like, it is just kind of a side note, which is pretty odd. Even more than that, just I don't understand these characters. I don't understand their choices. I don't understand what's going on in their minds. Like, especially their position versus the choices they're making. So we've got our main assassin girl. We've got the princess from this like conquered kingdom that is living at the palace, kind of under lock and key almost. Like, she obviously she's not happy with being there, and her people are kind of being slaughtered. Then we have the prince, and then we have the captain of the guards. And you'd think that those positions might have instilled some thick skin a little bit. Like, I get that they're really young, might have instilled some common sense, might have let them know that people shouldn't be trusted like within the first 5 seconds of meeting them. Nope, none of these 4 people have gained any of that knowledge or experience from their positions, because immediately they are all 4 so like emotionally invested in each other and willing to risk so much for the other person that they've known like a month or 2 months. There were characters that had really odd like moral superiority complexes that just I don't understand, like, realistically. So the king at one point, this king that is evil, he's kind of like the bad characters, like the evil in this book is kind of like the cartoon villain that's like going like that in the dark corner of the room. They don't really have any sort of depth or reasoning for their actions beyond that. But the king, who's killed so many people and doesn't care about the destruction he causes, etc., etc., is like, the prince is trying to tell, because he's emotionally compromised with Selena, tell his father like she did what she had to do to survive. And his father, who's like murdered tons of people and like desecrated civilizations, is like, I don't think I can have someone like that working for me. And like, she could have made other choices and she chose to kill. And it's just like, what? How does it make sense that you would have any issue with someone else's ability to kill, especially since the whole goal of this thing is to find like the most talented killer to work for you? There's another part where Selena like discovers a tunnel. This isn't like a huge spoiler. She discovers a tunnel. She figures that she can leave if she wants to. And by that time, she's decided not to really quickly. And then she discovers something in this tunnel that's, potentially very dangerous, and chooses not to tell the captain of the guard because she's like, what would he think if he knew I had a way out? Even though they had a conversation 5 minutes prior where he tells her, he's like, I know you won't leave. I actually trust you. I just know. I just do. What? I did not like Selena. She is such a contradiction, and not an interesting contradiction, just kind of an unexplained contradiction of this cold-blooded killer who's killed, we're led to believe, a ton of people, like, with no real moral imperative. She mentions at one point that she doesn't kill, I think, people from a certain city or children. That leaves a lot of options on the table. But like, her character, all we get is like, she loves puppies and she loves dresses and she likes shiny things and she's obsessed with boys. And I get that the author is probably trying to create this like powerful, physically powerful female character that is still a woman and can be interested in female things, but it doesn't feel good and it does not work, and I don't like it. The love triangle is terrible. Please make it stop. Oh my gosh, like, okay. The positions of these characters makes no sense for them to be together. It's bad if they're together. And yet they're so drawn to each other for unknown reasons. And Selena is just like bopping back and forth between the two guys with like no real thought or care. At one point, she's like dancing with one of them, and she like almost kisses him or something. There's like a romantic moment where she's looking in their eyes or whatever, and then the other one comes and takes her away, and she forgets about him. There's literally a line where she's like, she feels guilty about forgetting of the other one so quickly. She's so fickle and she's so vain, and she's not that likable, and I don't like her. And then there's a part where like the captain of the guard, who, you're young, but if you are the captain of the guard, you should have seen violence by now. You're not like some common soldier. You're the captain of the king's guard. And at one point has to defend someone else who's literally gonna stab someone in the back. And after he kills this very bad character, he like has a breakdown where he's like, what have I done? What? You literally saved someone from an opponent that was going to stab them in the back. Why in the world would you feel so guilty about this thing? I apologize for those who really love this book. There's a lot of you out there. I know I'm like speed listing the sins of this book, but I feel like there's a lot of them. Like, Selena at one point thinks another character is bad and did something bad and is working against her. And within 3 pages, she's like changed her mind 3 times. She's like, oh, it's definitely this person. And then she's like, oh, how could I think that? That's terrible. And then she's like, but it is this person, I think. All of their thoughts and their decisions just feel so cheap because they keep changing them so rapidly and without any sort of sense. The things that should be like big stepping stones, big plot devices, are just totally skipped or ignored. So we talked about the tournament. There's also some mysterious creature that's like killing the champions one by one, really graphically in like terrible ways. And this is in the middle of the palace. So you'd think that they might be concerned with like royal safety, etc. But they come across like the 4th champion that's been like ripped into pieces. And these 2 guards have a conversation being like, well, I hope this doesn't become a pattern. If 4 people are dead right now, I think it's a pattern already. And there's just kind of no concern about this thing. There are like no real safety precautions that are put into place. It's like everyone just feels fine ignoring it. So I've listed a lot of complaints, like obvious character flaws. Not even character flaws. Character flaws are interesting, but just gaps in characters, choices that make no sense, that feel like the author's kind of forcing the characters to make them because she wants the plot to go in a certain direction, not because it makes any sort of sense. The writing was pretty juvenile. Like, it wasn't bad. I read that Sarah J. Maas wrote this when she started writing this when she was 16, but it actually got published when she was like 26. So it definitely feels credible that this is like someone's first book. I remember reading ACOTAR and I actually really liked the writing. Again, this was a long time ago, but I don't remember any of it standing out as like super simplistic. Not that simplistic is bad, but like it didn't feel like a kid had written it. So obviously her writing gets way better. I think, maybe the 4th, 5th, 6th book in the series, I'll probably really enjoy the writing more of. And I have heard that the first book is kind of the worst. Like, you have to get through the first book and then it starts getting better, which I do believe. I don't know if I enjoyed this enough, though, to want to read 6 more books in the series. I'll probably give the 2nd book a try eventually once I've forgotten everything that happened in the first, because that's always how it goes. But like, I listed a lot of bad things. I think the book has a lot of potential. I've really enjoyed some of Sarah J. Maas's other books, so I'm not trying to like put the author down or anything like that, but this did feel like a very kind of like juvenile cliche fantasy book that if I read when I was like 12 or 13, I think I really would have enjoyed it. But at my age now, I've read so many other like copy and paste versions of this almost that I'm a bit more discerning. I'm a bit pickier. Maybe I just need to give some of the other books a try. Maybe by the time we're reaching the middle of the series, I'll be like giving them 4 or 5 stars. That could definitely happen. But I finished it. It's done. Why does she have silver hair? I've always wondered. Well, I haven't always wondered that. Whenever I saw these covers, I thought that she had silver hair in the book. She has blonde hair. Why is it silver? I don't know. I need to pick my next book. I am going to be adding a non-romantasy book because my book club, and that is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. I am a few chapters through this. I'm actually quite enjoying it so far. I don't know if I'm really going to discuss this much in this reading vlog, but let's choose my next romantasy book because I want to get a few of them in this month. Okay, so those are my main bookshelves. I have maybe a few romantasy on there that I will check later in the month, but I know I don't have that many. Those are new books I've bought that I haven't done hauls of, as are like in here. There's like a big pile there. But here, oh my gosh, why is this thing so crooked? I don't know why this is so crooked. I apologize. Those are books that I've read, and those are books that I've read. But I know I've got some... these are books that I have done hauls of, but I haven't gotten them on my shelf. However, I am going to let myself pick some from here because this is an option. I don't know how, I'm trying to choose like popular ones, like hyped up ones. I don't know how hyped up that is. There's those. That's an option. Like I really need to fill these. I need to do a haul so I can like fill all the empty gaps in these. Late Lark is an option. There's also this one, Assistant to the Villain. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. I think this might be the next book. Let's do this. So it's only the following day and I already have an update, unfortunately. I began this book as an audiobook. I'm going to be traveling the next few days. I'm not going to have a ton of time for physically reading books, but I am going to have time more to listen. I got about a paragraph through the audiobook before I had to stop. I cannot continue. I can't get over just how like AI sounding the voice is. I'm curious if it's just me or if other people might feel this way. Let me play you just like a 10-second clip. And this is like the first sentence, so I stopped pretty fast. I don't know if you guys can hear this.
It was an ordinary day when Evie met the villain. Another failed attempt at the job fairs in her village. Another day with no source of income.
Doesn't that sound like a robot? I looked up the person reading it because I was so sure it was AI generated. But she's read like over 100 audiobooks. Maybe it's just this one that is like striking me for some reason, like rubbing me the wrong way or something. I don't know. It could just be me. Maybe she's fantastic. But I need to physically read that one. I can't get into the audiobook. I'm going to swap it with my secondary choice, Late Lark. Hey guys, I am preparing myself for this reading update because I don't want it to be like Throne of Glass where I just went on this like half-hour rant, but I finished Late Lark and we should talk. Preface. Going into the book, I did not know that there was like some sort of controversy, I guess, going on with the author. Personally, I don't care. I'm going to be judging this book purely from my experience reading the actual book rather than anything the author's done. I don't know if the controversy, like so many nowadays, is like overrated. Probably. But then again, I don't know what's going on. So, finish this book. Let's talk. It's confusing. It's a lot. It's unbalanced. It's chaotic. It has lots of plot holes. Did I say enough? Can we just stop there? So this is, Late Lark is about 6 different rulers and the curses that have been placed on them. So 500 years ago, Lightlark was all one land, one island, and all the rulers lived. I don't think they ruled together, but like the land was one chunk of land. Something bad happened, a curse was placed, and all the little pieces of land have kind of like fractured off. Every 100 years, there's a centennial where the rulers come together. If they are able to achieve the parameters of a prophecy, then they might be able to break the curses that have been placed upon them. Now, you'd think that the curses and the rulers' powers would be somewhat balanced, somewhat equal. Nope, they're not. It felt like someone had taken like a big old bucket and written on slips of paper random powers and random curses and put like 1,000 of them in there, and someone just like went like this and chose one for each. But for a few of them, their hand, like, they accidentally grabbed a few, and they're just like, well, this is what it's going to be like. Our main character, I'm going to try not to go super negative. Our main character is Isla, and she is the ruler of the Wildling realms. The Wildling curse is, well, their gift, first of all, is that they're connected with nature, connected with animals. They've got, like, nature powers. Their curse is that they have to eat human hearts to survive, and they cannot... if they fall in love, they have to kill the person they love. I don't know how this human heart thing, it's never really explained, like, where all these hearts are coming from. Like, are they just... I don't know how big this realm is, but you'd think if they were always killing each other in order to eat, soon there wouldn't be very many of them left. But it's not explained, so I digress. Isla goes to the Centennial. It happens every 100 years. She's the youngest one there, I think, so some of the other rulers of the other realms, they've already been through this. What happens each Centennial is you spend 100 days, I believe, on Lightlark, trying to break your curses, trying to fulfill this prophecy. The prophecy that says you all must come together, one of the rulers has to die, what was done before has to be done again, yada, yada, yada. The first 50 days of the Centennial is pretty much like this big meet and greet. And then everyone's kind of like showing off their powers to each other and issuing like little challenges that everyone has to participate in. And then once day 50 hits, you can start killing the other people. So Isla meets these other leaders and learns about them and their realms and their powers and their curses, etc., etc. And she's been raised from a very young age to kill, to be super dangerous, and to seduce. And none of those things have any really major impact on her or the plot. A little bit in that she can fight, and that does come in handy a few times. But she finds herself drawn to two of the male leaders, the Sunling one and not the Nightling, because they can't all be matching sets. Nightling, Moonling, Sunling. Nope, it has to be Nightshade. It's like when you finish a series, but for the very last book, they changed the format slightly, and it looks mismatched on your shelf. It's kind of like that. So she goes there. She has a friend that she's not supposed to have, one of the other Ling rulers, Moonling, I think it is. And they have a plan to find this like curse breaker. And there are these little side quests that feel very random and super unbalanced with the major plot, where they have to sneak into libraries and they have to disguise themselves. They can't just normally disguise themselves. They have to like use certain like hair dye, like magical hair dye, because in a land where all this magic exists, you can't just have hair dye. And the emphasis that's put on this, like trying to make it sound like an exciting, dangerous thing, is just, I didn't feel like it was. I can just feel my energy like crashing. I don't mean to be so negative about this book. It was so messy, and there were so many plot holes, and there were things that just were a certain way because it felt like the author didn't want to go back and make sense of them. So this book, there were some cool ideas. I really like the idea, actually, of all these rulers being under a curse. They have to come together to try to break the curse. That sounds really cool. The issue is this felt like a second draft of a book where there's no super awkward sentences. There's not a lot of typos. It's not like that, but it's like the author's gotten the main bones of it down, but there's still places that are pretty bumpy where she wrote something later on that might negate something that happened earlier, and she didn't go back to smooth everything out or to fill in these kind of glaring sometimes plot holes. So everything feels like it's held together by really thin strings, and it does not give the impression that the author has a firm grasp on her characters or her world or the history of this place. I will say the last 25% I actually enjoyed. The first 3/4 of the book, I was really struggling, and I was fighting not to DNF it. And I was like, this is going to be super easy decision. I'm not going to continue with the series. At least I'll know. At least I won't waste my money buying the other books, etc., etc. And then the last 25% came, and there was actually like some decent action and some things that started making sense. And I actually quite enjoyed the last corridor, but I don't feel like it made up for the first 3/4 of it. It just still felt really, I don't know. It's so weird because I haven't had a reading experience like this lately where I felt like it shouldn't have been published yet. Does that make sense? Like, there are some books that I read where I'm just like, oh, I don't like what they did with the character. I don't like their writing style. Something like specific to me. But this is just like, I haven't read a book in a while that I'm just like, oh, that really needs another several edits. Felt really unbalanced and strange. Did I complain enough about it? I don't know. The way I'm trying to describe this book is kind of how I felt reading it, which is like I can't seem to get my thoughts straight, and I can't choose which topic I want to concentrate on because it's so all over the place. Anyway, I'm going to read 2 more books this month because I can still get a good one. I have confidence. Divine Rivals. Please be good. And also These Hollow Vows. This is about Fae. Super excited. Love books that have to do with Fae. But it looks like it's a love triangle again. Please stop giving me love triangles. Lightlark was a love triangle. Kingdom of Glass. Kingdom of Glass. That is right. Kingdom of Ash? Kingdom of Glass. No, Throne. Oh my gosh. I need to take a break. After a lot of struggle. Not a lot of struggle. I've only read 2 romantasy books before this one. After a medium amount of struggle this month, I have come out the other side with a good book. A book I personally really enjoyed, and that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Not even this month, but a lot of the recent, really popular, more YA central books that I have read where people are like, oh, this is like the holy grail of my books. I love this. I will read this a million times. 5 stars. I've read a lot of them, and I'm just kind of confused. I end up confused as to like what the hype is or why people enjoy it so much, which is completely fair. I am firmly in the adult category. I'm not a young adult anymore, so that's only to be expected. And then something like this comes along, and I'm like, nope, I can still really enjoy and appreciate the ones that are good to me subjectively. So this is Divine Rivals. We focus on main character. Her name is Iris Winnow. She lives in this town originally with her brother Forrest and her mother. Now, Forrest has left for war, and it's not a war between neighboring countries or feuding royals, anything like that. It's between two gods. This book felt way more like a historical fiction set during one of the world wars than it did a fantasy, like taking place in another world or another realm. It felt really grounded, and I could almost believe that this was like 100 years ago, if not for the gods, obviously, the two warring gods, and then also the really subtle and really creative magic that the author kind of injects into this story. I love huge epic fantasies, but it was really refreshing to read one of these books where the magic is used in a different way, and it's not like an in-your-face explosion. There's like two typewriters that magically will deliver letters to each other. There's grocery stores where when you enter the grocery store will like magically know how much money you have in your pockets and judge you accordingly. It was really kind of understated things like that I found really refreshing. So Iris is left with her mother in this town, and her mother is not handling her brother's absence well at all. Now, she does work at a newspaper as a columnist, where she's competing for the role of permanent columnist with a man whose name is Roman Kit. And Iris and Roman have a frenemy relationship going on. They both like to annoy each other, but I think they also admire the other person and appreciate a lot of the qualities that the opposite has that maybe they don't personally have. Something happens. Don't want to say what. But Iris decides she's done with this town. She is leaving. She's going to the front line. She's going to be a war correspondent because currently where she lives, they're not heavily involved with the war as far as like recruiting and sending people. They're at such a distance from the war where they're hoping that by the time it reaches them, it might be over and they won't really have to choose a side. They won't have to participate. But Iris knows that her brother is fighting in this war, and she really wants to bring awareness to everyone. So she goes to the front lines, and things happen. She has been sending who she believes is her brother letters through her typewriter from the beginning, and someone is receiving those letters, but it's not her brother. The steps that it took, where I'm like, okay, I definitely know, the next direction, the next choice the author is going to do, because 99% of other YA romantasy books would have them doing X, Y, and Z. And then the author doesn't do that. And it goes in a different direction that I did not expect, where I'm just like, oh, you can do that? Like, you don't have to have this, like, for the first 3 books, the relationship doesn't have to be this like back and forth where one conversation would settle half the issues they have going on, but they never sit down and tell each other how they feel. Like, you don't have to stretch that through like 3 books. What is happening? I love this. I read this in 2 days. I really want to continue book 2. It is a duology. I think the authors come out with like a prelude, which I'm not quite as interested in. I just want to know what happens with our main characters. Twists and turns. There are these like magic wolves and magic birds that drop bombs that the gods use to attack each other. The writing is really beautiful. It's really easy. It's very fast paced. I love it. I gave it 4 stars. It was between a 4 and a 5. If Goodreads let me do half stars, I would be like 4.5. So I'm very excited to continue this. If you're looking for a good romantasy, I'm just saying. I also have made a choice where my final book was going to be These Hollow Vows. I started it and I just wasn't feeling it. It's not the book, maybe. It's just, I wasn't feeling it at the moment. I do still want to give this a try in the future, but I did switch it to The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I just know that this is about a vampire set in New Orleans. I've started it. I've made it about a quarter of the way through. This is either going to be a book that I finish and probably give like 3 stars, or it might end up being a DNF. I think I'm going to read more today and try to make a decision because tomorrow is May 1st. And I usually try to have my reading challenge things be a month. I mean, I can go over, it's no big deal, but we'll see. I don't know. I might come back and just decide that this isn't for me. All right, guys, I think the romantasy challenge is going to be done without me completing the beautiful. I've made it a little bit further. I've made slightly more progress. I'm a little over a third of the way through, but there's just not much in me that wants to continue this. It's not that it's bad. It's just, it's very typical. There's a girl, her name is Celine, and she used to live in Paris. She's recently kind of escaped. Something bad happened there and she had to run away. The reasons are still a little bit muddled. We're kind of still figuring that out. But she is sent to New Orleans where she's going to stay sort of like in a nunnery. And she's there with 6 other girls, and they're going to kind of work for the nuns until husbands can be found for them. So she comes to New Orleans, and the writing is very, very, very descriptive. And sometimes it really works because New Orleans, I think, is a perfect setting to have sort of this like underground vampire like mob family. But there's so much magic going on, and she describes the clothing and the food, but it's I really like descriptive writing, but it's a level above kind of what I'm enjoying. Of course, there's this super attractive guy who everyone seems to kind of respect and fear, and of course he and Celine kind of get tossed into situations together, and she's spunky and she's like, she won't take any crap from him, but her attitude and her thoughts on being a lady versus like her thirst for danger, I think the author was trying to give her some sort of like complicated personality where she's very much taught by society that as a woman she needs to kind of be quiet and she needs to behave and she needs to be seen and not heard, but there's something inside her that really yearns for thrill. And I think we're supposed to be caught in between those two things as she wrestles with them, but it comes across more as just someone who has no idea what she wants and keeps flip-flopping back and forth and has thoughts. Her thoughts just keep going like from A to Z and A to Z, not in a great way. And I'm just not enjoying it very much. Again, who knows, maybe I'll pick it up and try to finish it because I have made it pretty far. But the amount of times so far, I'm only about a third of the way through, that this main attractive man is being compared to the devil or being called devilish. It's been like 50 times so far. Not that many, but by the end of the book, it probably will be about 50 times. And I'm just like, oh, here comes another comparison. He's got horns or something like that. So for now, this isn't for me. I have a feeling if I finished it, it would probably be like a 2.5, 3-star read. But I'm going to stop there. We only got through 4. Geez, this feels so much longer than 4 books. I mean, 4 books and the murder mystery I read. But the really good thing to come out of this was Divine Rivals. I'm so excited to read book 2. Some of these romantasy books deserve their hype, and some I would not agree with the hype, but to each their own. If you really enjoyed all of these books, some of these books, I'm super happy for you. I had slightly different reactions to different books, but that's the beauty of reading and having different authors and different tastes. It's a wonderful thing. If you guys made it to the end, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to have a haul coming up soon, and then I need to decide what I'm going to do for May, because May is upon us and I need to choose my new reading challenge. I'll see you guys then. Bye.